It's a stupid thing, I think, to try to catch up to Bitcoin from a coin, because Bitcoin's a different league. It just did 50% from 75K up to 112K. Meanwhile, the stock markets did maybe 15%.
The sentiment shift has been as big of a volatile shock. I think, like you said, is these stock markets creeping new all-time highs. Surely that's going to bring some confidence back. That doesn't innately affect crypto. It's going to add only positive effects to Bitcoin going, ETH going, altcoins eventually going, because people aren't going to take crypto risk until everything else looks a bit more safer. Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Tapping Into Crypto with me, Jason Pizzino, mate. Welcome back.
Thank you very much, Pav. Good to see you again.
Yeah, likewise, mate. It's I think it's been like 1 or maybe 2 years since the last catch up. It's probably sooner. My memory is just honestly fading these days. But Jason, you run the Investor Accelerator, or the TIA. You're a crypto community, mate. How are you finding everything's going at the moment?
If you're heavy into Bitcoin, it's all pretty good. If you sort of risked everything on altcoins, probably not so good.
That's a good way to start, I reckon, because a lot of what we've been talking even in previous episodes and with the guests that we've come in with, I think a lot of people are finding, especially if you've come from the last cycle as being like your first run at Bitcoin, we say cycle, let's call it like the last bull run in 2021, 2022. What are you sort of seeing this time around that, maybe is quite different? Because I think a lot of people right now seasonally, or even from the halving, would have expected that Bitcoin should be absolutely chasing and running away. Where do you sort of see that we might be in this particular, environment, sitting from a macro and, risk on and perspective, looking at Bitcoin and altcoins?
I treat them quite separately,
Yep.
Bitcoin and altcoins.
Good. That's good.
Very separately. I know people might put them in the same basket, but no, separately. For Bitcoin, when you look at it in terms of percentage, it has kind of run away. You go from 15,000, that's the cycle low, November 2022. The bull market, and I say this all the time in my videos, the bull market has been going for over 2.5 years. It's unfortunate that most people only come to the market towards peaks. And then I just back it up with follow the market all the way through. You don't have money in it. It helps if you do have a little bit so that you stay connected to this living, breathing beast. And so people, what they do, they put the money in at the top, they hope for the best, and then it goes down, they take it out and they leave. So that's pretty much the way I see the market over and over and over again, being through the last 3 cycles now from 2017. And yeah, basically, how do I see it between the two of them? Bitcoin has run away 600%, 2.5 years. Altcoins, on the other hand, some have. And so people are going to look at their portfolios and be like, well, mine's up, but majority of them will say, no, mine isn't. And that's mostly because you only have a few projects, even though they're not projects, it's a lot of shitcoins, right? That are really capturing the attention of so few people that are in the space. We haven't really seen that same volume of people, the same volume on the exchanges and that sort of stuff come through compared to 2021. So it's basically like the same money fighting for attention.
Do you think like there's a reason why kind of the landscape is what it is today, or do you just feel like it's just a sign of the times? Or
a reason could be that people are just exhausted from the BS,
Yeah, okay.
Like last cycle was one of the biggest BS cycles, every single cycle, and then everyone just expects it. Everyone expects to make money, and it's not that easy. They're like the same comments I hear all the time. When is alt season? When is alt season? But my alts aren't going up. When is it? It's like you won't know when it hits, and you won't know when it ends. And then if you just buy up anything and hope for the best, you're still probably not going to make anything because you're just expecting to make money from it. So, yeah, I don't treat it like that. And I think that's possibly a big reason why it's not going up, is because everyone is expecting to make money from it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually. And like when you think about signs of when it could be coming, like is there anything you're looking to in particular, or are you waiting to, for example, see something in Bitcoin before you know it could be time to look at altcoins?
There's a lot of things I look at, but just to keep it nice and simple, say for the podcast, we'll go 2 things. I look at the stable coins and whether essentially we're seeing money flow out of stable coins and somewhere else, that somewhere else has been Bitcoin. and sometimes altcoins. So stablecoins is one, and then the other chart, which is very similar to that, is your altcoin charts. The total market cap of altcoins. So a lot of the time through this cycle, they've broken out for a little while, then they've pulled right back underneath levels that are weak, just to keep it nice and simple for people listening. And now they keep testing these levels and they keep failing. So that's pretty much the way I've seen it. I'm waiting for those things. The stable coins haven't shown up for altcoins to go ballistic, and the total altcoin charts are just not showing signs that they want to break out at all or yet. We don't know.
It's been pretty interesting. Like even what you said, like thinking back to 2023, it was almost a case of, all these new coins that hit the market. Like let's talk about Celestia, like, Say, I think there was Sui at the time, and Aptos, like all these things were coming out. But yeah, when you really zoom back and look at what was happening, it was just a redistribution of wealth from, like you sort of say, shitcoin A into shitcoin B. There was no real major inflows coming in. It was all kind of going to Bitcoin and not leaving.
Yeah, pretty much. And then people sort of say, oh, well, that's the ETFs, or you won't see the money because the data is showing up for the ETFs, but it's still been working the same. So I don't try to make things more complicated than they are. And yeah, all the money is pretty much just going to Bitcoin at this point, with short bursts into other alts. Maybe it's Sui, maybe it's XRP, maybe it's Ethereum. Solana had its turn, and then they've all just begun to fade.
Yeah, and I guess it's pretty key when you actually think back and reflect on it. It's easy after the fact, right? But like even thinking about Solana hitting, I think it hit market cap new all-time highs, if not price all-time high.
Yeah, it got to 295, and the previous all-time high was about 260. So yeah, it only made it by $35, 20, what's that, 15 or so percent.
And then to see like that meme coin mania take off just micro cap after micro, like it is a bit of a, yeah, this is a bubble. Now looking back at it, look, a lot of us got caught up in it as well, myself included to some percentage. But yeah, it was an interesting because I think a lot of people just expected, especially with Trump coming in, it's like the Trump trade is on, like let's go. But obviously with the whole tariff macro regime we're seeing right now, it's a whole different landscape to November 2024.
I think you made two good points there. You obviously had the Trump thing going on, and people sort of waited for him to get inaugurated, which was actually the all-time high in January before we just got a new all-time high. So it was like the exact day he was inaugurated, all-time high. So it looked like everyone was front-running that news. Again, November was a breakout. All-time high was Trump, crash. And then you said something about not having too much money in altcoins, even though we got caught up. Some of us have been trading them, and it's really been a big traders market, not just like, hey, I'm going to buy, hold, wait for alt season. It's just not how it works. And I think that has not been helpful for the retail trader. So you need to be smarter now. So if you don't have a plan, if you don't understand how to enter and exit, have stops, and just pay more attention to it, I think you're just going to basically be giving your money away to someone else in the hopes that you're going to get rich.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think a lot of people forget that it is a zero-sum game. For you to make money, someone else is losing, right? It's easy to forget it is a dog-eat-dog world.
Yeah. I think, especially for Australians, it's an Australian podcast or a SwiftX best exchange in Australia, and you have Aussies on here, obviously. They are used to using sportsbet apps. I don't know if it's the same people, but whenever I hear little stories of people talking about their sports betting app, they put $50 down here or $100 on, I don't know, the Broncos or whoever.
Yep.
They're just gambling on nonsense to make another $100. And it's like, you're giving your money away, especially in crypto.
That is the thing. It's the forest for the trees type of situation, right? When you have something like a generational, asset like Bitcoin, like who knows, everyone says it's never coming back to under six figures. Like maybe that's true. Like a lot of people just, again, losing a lot of those money into those micro or ultra low caps, expecting to catch up to Bitcoin, when reality is it could probably still be the better performer in the long run.
Yeah, it's a stupid thing, I think, to try to catch up to Bitcoin from a shitcoin, because Bitcoin's a different league. Like Bitcoin it just did 50% from 75K up to 112K. Meanwhile, the stock markets did maybe 15%. So you shouldn't be comparing altcoins with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's in a different league now. It's like the market cap it's in the top 10 market caps in the world.
Yeah, recently just ticked up. Yeah.
Yeah. So trying to gamble on an altcoin and do that, it's not my strategy. And I know a lot of people will be like, no, that's BS. I can do it. Go ahead. But in the meantime, Bitcoin's just putting on 5% here, 2% there, 10% there. And why not just make life easy for yourself?
Yeah. It's a good way to put it, really. So when it does come to altcoins, and when the time is right, do you kind of have like a certain way you approach it all, or is it just at the time what looks good to you?
Well, yeah, it's what looks good to me on the chart, because I'm from a technical background, so that's why I just focus on the charts. I don't really get too heavy into this narrative and that narrative and what's going on. The main thing I'll use the narratives for are either to sort of ride with that trend if the chart looks strong, or start to get out of it if things are looking toppy. One thing that pops to mind when we're talking about these trends, and it was meme coins and what to get into, it was around the peaks. I think it was sort of November. Meme coins were still doing pretty well, or they had their second burst of energy, and you had a lot of podcasts with some of the big meme coins out there that only focus on meme coins. You had the Murads. I think even Raoul Pal was talking about meme coins. He was on
He was
Diary of a CEO. All you have to do is just get into meme coins. It's like, what? Yeah. And then it just fucking tanked. There goes everyone's money. And it's like the big names saying do it at those high points. Maybe those things were just released at the time of the tops because it's of interest and they recorded it at low prices. I don't know. But whenever you see it come out at that time, well, then probably not best to do those things. Do the opposite.
And obviously a lot of this is, we talk about crypto in like an isolated manner, but it is a general reflection on, I guess, the macro and general conditions that we see broadly speaking. Sorry. What's your sort of take on how things are looking right now, or what people should be sort of anticipating
in the crypto space?
Just broader macro trends that are probably going to translate into big impacts in the crypto markets. There's obviously a lot happening at the moment, but just to pick from a few things that are maybe top of mind for you at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Macro, I mean, look, if we're talking about traditional finance, we're looking at the US stock markets, real estate markets. Does that affect Bitcoin and crypto? Yeah. Yes, I always say it does. You need to see money coming in and risk on in order for that money to come through after it's done its gains elsewhere, and people get a bit more positive about the market, confident, and then start to gamble their money away into altcoins and then essentially giving it to smarter hands. So yes, you do need to see that. And in terms of the macro side, the stock market, the US stock markets are in bull markets. They are still going up. So there was a lot of fear, but it's still a bull market. And then basically a lot of the other countries around the world, which have a lesser effect on crypto space, they're also in bull markets. You've got new all-time highs on many other stock markets around the globe. Germany, new all-time highs. Canada, new all-time highs. Australia getting close to new all-time highs. China is on the way up, not at all-time highs, but it has been going up. So that's their stock market. So yeah, you're still seeing confidence in the economy there from the smart money, not from the retail that are screaming cost of living crisis, but essentially, we're trying to trade the markets, not trade the headlines of fear.
No, exactly. And a lot of the fear recently has obviously been the big R word, recession. Like, what's your sort of take?
I've gone numb to that.
Yeah, that's it. Like the data's just not there, right? Like even from some of the stuff that we talk about on the show previously, like private credit markets, there's issuance of new institutional grade corporate credit lines. They're just growing since 2024. I think if you compare it to Q4 2024, I look recently, it's up like 94%. So like, there is absolute appetite for risk, and it's really interesting to see the rationale behind a lot of these recession calls. Like there was obviously that the big one being that GDP print in the US that we saw for Q1, which was a negative print, but obviously again some nuance there with the import export ratios, which threw it off a little bit out of kilter. But
that was that Atlanta Fed saying the GDP is going to be down in Q1, recession, yada yada. And then it sort of, as the days went on, they kept reassessing the number, and it kept getting higher and higher, and then it turned into a positive number for the quarter.
Yeah, it was an interesting creep, but it's interesting to see. Just I think the biggest thing for 2025 for me, even looking at the broader markets and the metrics and all this stuff, it's still just been a confidence hit. Like absolute shock to the system. And again, like we did see that in some of the credit markets too, like very similar de-risking event in terms of velocity that we saw in the inflation crisis in 22, as well as a COVID crash too. So while it wasn't in terms of dollars and etc. like the same size, but just the sentiment shift has been as big of a volatile shock. And I think, like you said, as these stock markets creep in new all-time highs, surely that's going to bring some confidence back. And again, while that doesn't innately affect crypto, it's going to have only positive effects to your Bitcoin going, ETH going, altcoins eventually going, because people aren't going to take crypto risk until everything else looks a bit more safer, right?
Yeah, maybe not for the same length of time that we're used to with an altcoin season, say 2021 and 2017, where it was multi-months as opposed to several weeks here and there. Yeah, now it's really very much like a trader's market. If you don't know when to get in, when to get out, in particular when to get out, whether it's with a loss or with a profit, it's much more difficult for those people.
Yeah, it's pretty ruthless these days. Just the sheer number, like I think, like you said it at the start, just the what's getting attention right now that seems to run. But as soon as the attention goes away, like the money never comes
quickly.
Back. Yeah, it never comes back. Like you'll be up, let's just say something silly like 200%, but then you might see it come straight back down, and you'll just go sideways again, and you won't see that again. I saw that with a couple, but
well, hopefully the folks are sort of starting to consolidate into something a bit stronger and keeping life easier for themselves. I know it's so boring, but I mean, that's what making money is about. Isn't that what Warren Buffett always said? Making money's boring. Yeah. Ask any of the big names, Peter Lynch, Paul Tudor Jones. It's like, why do we try to change it up and make it exciting? I don't know.
No, it got me stumped. It's something definitely you got to get humbled a few times before you probably, work it out for, that you're in it for the long term. Because a lot of people might see crypto as a short-term opportunity still. I like, at least the people I talk to. But it's so hard, obviously, when you've got so many things working against you, like cost of living crisis and, even people trying to get a house in Australia. Like I know it just seems, especially in Brisbane, it's just getting ridiculous. So everyone's like, well, I've got to take a chance on something and I got to ride this to, infinity or zero, because in between isn't good enough for me right now.
That you do hear that a lot. And I mean, I just go, I have it from friends on their texts. It's like, oh, have you got any tips? And I don't like doing tips because it's, you need to know when to sell. And I'm not going to set up a group channel for everyone to say, oh, I'm going to sell here. Like, it's just stupid. So I just say, focus on something that you do and that you love doing, because for the majority of people, and this goes against for SwiftX, but it's probably not trading. It's probably not sitting in front of a computer trading. If you want to do longer term stuff, maybe on a weekly or a monthly basis, you don't need to spend that much time. But yeah, just focus on something you love to do, and cost of living won't mean shit anymore to you. You'll just be doing things that you love to do.
From what you're seeing in your community groups and, a lot of the calls or like the videos you're doing recently, like what are the common themes of what you feel like are messages that you're trying to get across right now, given where we are in the broadest scheme of things?
The main questions that have come up in those is similar to what we talked about today. When is alt season? And just, I often just hammer home the cautiousness when it comes to trading and investing, because it's so easy to lose money. But that always sounds like, and it comes across as, oh, you're being a bear, a bear in the market. But I mean, it is what it is. I'd rather have my money and be called a bear than be a bulltard and not have anything. It's just keep riding it out. If the trend's up, keep going with the trend. And for BTC, the trend is still up. Just keep riding with the trend.
Yeah. And do you have, like, not to give any forecasting, but like what you're expecting to see in the next couple of months from, like, let's just talk about Bitcoin specifically, because altcoins, like, I agree, it's kind of like it's coming, but we won't know, and likely it'll happen faster than what people think. But, with Bitcoin, do you kind of see this grind up sort of heading into the end of the year or the next couple of months at least?
Yes. But I'm wary of a couple of time targets. So my first time target is for at least a short term, looking around now, because we're in early June to mid-June. There's been so far 6 straight weeks up. This is according to my own analysis, the way I assess the chart, not talking green and red bars, but anyway, 6, and generally you don't see more than about 6 to 8 weeks in a row. Therefore, probably going to pause for a while or correct. From that point, then, we could go a bit higher. And I'm looking somewhere around July, August. Now, we've never seen an all-time high in July or August, But there are some signs to say that we might get something a little bit earlier, maybe a bit of a significant move. From that point, then I'll be looking towards later in the year, so going into quarter 4. But yeah, I've got that first. It's just piece by piece because the whole puzzle isn't there yet.
No, God, no. And this has been, I think, even from an investor's trader's perspective, like one of the most challenging years. Like you compare it to, 24, even 23, like it was a bit easier to draw a consensus of where things could be going, like for the next 2 quarters at least. But yeah, I'm basically looking at the same horizon. Like I'm from July to August, June, July, August. I don't know when or how it's going to look, but I kind of will be looking for a good reason to de-risk. And then, yeah, I mean, even if I miss something, I'm happy to get back in because generally speaking, Q4 is always historically been a good period for risk on assets, broadly speaking, Bitcoin specifically as well, looking at its seasonal data. But like you, man, like I'm happy to be proven wrong and have to change everything that I'm doing all over again because it seems like a tricky one, this one.
Yeah, and we can only just keep tracking the trend, and the trend is still up. So it's like, okay, just keep riding it, keep going. And maybe it even extends out. Like we get a bit of a pullback mid-year. That August, October period have seen pullbacks before and then start to run. And then maybe it heads up into maybe a January point and you're like, wow, that's different. And then we start to get a pullback. Like no one knows and it's all just speculation, but that's the fun part, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. A lot of people, like, I think the stock market's good for seeing like when the confidence comes back. But even if you go back and look at, how long did it take for crypto to fall off a cliff and for the stock market to slow down? Like it really doesn't help you on the exit point, at least from when I've done my back testing. So, yeah, I still think even when you get to those good times, exactly to what you said, you've just got to learn to, take a few chips off the table and just wait for the next opportunity and have that longer term mindset still. So it's good.
Yeah, pretty much. Like you said, with your back testing, you're looking at the stock market and for Bitcoin and cryptos, and typically, like the S&P 500 will go longer than Bitcoin. Bitcoin topped out November. The S&P got to January. That's of 2021. The NASDAQ was November as well, so it was quite similar. But yeah, the S&P most likely will go beyond Bitcoin.
I think it's been a good one. Like, it's been hard. I think this year, like a lot of the feedback we've had is just, like what you just said, when alt season, like that is what people are saying. But I feel like what they're trying to say is like, when does crypto give us this opportunity? And it is sad to think, a lot of people got swept up in a lot of the altcoins and, like, unfortunately, a lot of the cases, many people probably sell just before it starts kicking off. Yeah, mate, this has been great. Is there anywhere that people can come check you out to sort of learn more about, the services you provide and your channel if you want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah, sure. Obviously, there's YouTube, basically almost daily videos over there. I'm talking about Bitcoin, altcoins, the stock markets, real estate cycle, and commodities. That's basically all my analysis that I do on a daily basis for my long-term investments. And X, they're pretty much the main two. Obviously, there's the website, but you'll find all those links in the YouTube video description for the Investor Accelerator.
Nice. All right, mate. Well, thanks very much, Mr. Jason Pizzino. Well, hopefully we'll have a bit more certainty next time we catch up. But, mate, this has been great. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Pab. Yeah, likewise.
Cheers, guys.